Pastor Chidi joining us.
Yeah, I sent him the link. I don't know why he's waiting. Let me try and give him a WhatsApp call. But anyway, we're starting.
I'm right back.
Okay, we're starting. Stand
Okay.
by. Stand by.
Okay.
It's exciting, it's educative, and engaging. Get master information on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, 7 o'clock every Sunday evening with your host, Jake Epele, CEO and founder, the Albino Foundation. Wisdom Masterclass webinar, live on Zoom, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Topics that will stir you up, take you right to the next level. For more information, send email to jake@albinofoundation.org or call 0803 533 5444. That is 0803 533 5444. Get reality on a virtual platform. Join the virtual trade. Don't be told. Get wisdom only on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, poised to take you to the next level.
Okay, welcome to Wisdom Masterclass webinar. And on Wisdom Masterclass, we feature topical issues, issues that will give you the right information. And tonight, I'm excited with the team that I have put together. We are looking at the 112 remaining girls of Chibok who hasn't been found. And the question is, what is going on and what can be done for the Chibok community who are struggling economically, socially, and politically. And joining me tonight, we're expecting the president of the association, CADA Association, to join us. But we have Mr. Yerema. Yerema, is that correct? Correct your name if I murder it. And then, of course, my team, Sese, all the way from the United States of America, North Carolina. He moved from Pennsylvania, making sacrifice to be on this show tonight. Professor Stella Williams is not a visitor or a newcomer to this webinar. Professor Williams will join us and give us the feminine perspective. Joining us all the way at 2 a.m. in the morning is Pastor Chidi Ume Ujubono. Pastor Chidi, can you please switch on your microphone? Pastor Chidi is an interesting fellow, a younger brother of Obi Ezekwesili, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, and that name is familiar with Bring Back Our Girls. And gentlemen, lady, welcome to Wisdom Masterclass. Welcome. Okay. Chidi, we're still expecting you to put on your microphone, but here's the
my microphone is on.
No, your video.
Oh, okay.
I know you're sleeping. Yeah, turn your camera.
My camera is on.
The other way around.
Okay.
Yeah, turn it the other way around.
I'll do that.
Make it, we will see you. Yeah, horizontal.
Can you see me now?
God, great. We can see you. Looks like it's cold in Australia.
Yeah, we're still a bit in winter.
Okay. All right. Sese, your friend, is laughing and smiling ear to ear. He drove all the way, and yet he's making this sacrifice. All right, gentlemen, lady, let me give you a rundown of what the program. It's a magazine program, so we go from every guest making a presentation. There's only one guest that will not make a presentation, and that's my co-host, Sese, will not make a presentation. All right. Okay, so, we're going to ask you guys to tell us your perspective. And I'm excited to announce to my audience that next week is a bomber shell. Next week, we are going to be doing facts and fiction about the 5G technology. And I want to announce that I will have the GM of MTN, the MTN transmission. Yes, MTN is one of the biggest internet and telephone providers in Nigeria. I will have him as a guest, and a gentleman called Samuel Orji will also join me. He works with Huawei. And of course, I will have Akindayo, who works with Microsoft, and maybe one person from Microsoft Cloud. Is going to be a bumper shell edition. So just letting the cat out of the bag. Okay, with that said, Sese, good evening and welcome, my co-host.
Good evening. Thank you, Pastor Jakes. I'm looking forward to an engaging conversation this evening.
Okay, who do we bring first, lady or gentleman? Sese.
I think Professor Stella can come in first and get us started. I think that would be great.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen, and good evening, participants. As a retired teacher, I feel that we are bringing forward some important issues about the what teachers need to do to protect their pupils or students. I remember starting to teach at Methodist Girls High School in Freetown, Sierra Leone in 1968, coming back home to Nigeria, continuing teaching at the Methodist Girls High School in Lagos, Yaba, local, from 1971. And for me, the important thing is that we as teachers, we are the protectors of our students. And so when we are talking about what happened to these young girls, I feel sad that the teachers did not take care of these words that they had. I met a few of them at Vice President Abubakar's school in Yola. I'm sure they've graduated and they're settled now. And I saw one of them at a video with President Trump in Washington, D.C. But my thing is, has this action taught us as teachers what we need to do to care for our words? And a good example is what is happening now with COVID-19. Thank God the JSS 3 and SS 3 are back in school so that they can finish their examination. But then the universities are not ready or prepared for these young ones. So, as a solution, what we want to look at tonight is, what is our responsibility taking care of these young lives that we are in care of? We are the caretaker of these young ones. What should we do to protect them from emergencies like this? Because the Boko Haram thing is an emergency. What should have been the strategy for the principal and all the members of staff to first of all take care of these young ones? As Uncle Jake, as I fondly call him, is asking us, where are these 15? What is the solution? I've been reading in some of the newspaper, the light just went off, Uncle Jake. So that's why it's dark.
Don't worry, we can hear your voice.
Thank you. The present situation, I've been reading about some of these young girls who have been married off to the Boko Haram members, and they are refusing to leave their husbands because they already have children by these young ones. But then, have we learned any lessons from this emergency? What can we do to make sure what happened to these Chibok girls does not ever happen again in our lifetime? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prof. That's a very good question and a note to end your presentation. I'd like to bring in Yarama, right?
Yes.
Yerima. Yarama, okay. Dr. Yarama.
Okay. We're expecting your president, and I'm sure he's struggling to sign in. Let me bring Yarama. And we also have very interesting visitor, and I wanted to bring her to the panel side, Aisha, who is representing Bring Back Our Girls, the Lagos chapter. But unfortunately, she disappeared from the radar. Aisha, once you come in, if you give us a buzz on the chat, we will bring you to the panel corner. All right, so Yarama, here we go.
Thank you very much, moderator and fellow panelists. My name is Yarama Andrepaya. I'm an indigenous of Chibok, born in Chibok, bred in Chibok, and today, by the grace of God, representing the Chibok community in Nigeria. I am the National Secretary of the Chibok Area Development Association. And as a Chibok man, the past years has been traumatic. Since the eve when our girls were picked from the government girls Chibok in 2014, it has never been an easy time. This is because if you had animals and they get lost, a good herdsman will not be able to sleep until he goes looking for the cattle and bring it home. When your goats are missing, you do not find peace. Talk less of when children, born and bred, Chibok-blooded children, in hundreds, were missing. Well, we as a community would say, we thank God that some of these kids have returned. Our peace is never complete until the last girl from among those girls is home. This is because my good book, let me call it openly the Bible, teaches me that a good shepherd, even when he has 100 sheep and he has the 99 in his yard, but he loses the one, he would safely keep the 99 and go searching for the one until he finds the one and return home. Then would his joy be complete. So I guess Chibok joy will be complete only when the last among the 112 girls that are still out there return back home. What has gone wrong? We've been worried. We've asked questions. We will continue to ask questions because in us, we will never be able to be at peace until these girls are back. So I think as Chibok community, the big question we are asking is, where are our 112 remaining girls? We'll discuss further. Thank you.
So go ahead and introduce your friend.
Pastor Judy, I think you've heard Professor Stella and Mr. Yarama bring forth their thoughts. I know you're vast in not just only scriptures, but in human development, about empathy and things like that. We would like to hear what your perspective is relative to what happened in Chibok and relative to the 112 beautiful young girls that are still missing.
Oh, thank you so much, co-panelists, and thank you so much, Pastor Jake Sekwele. Thank you for bringing me on this platform. Let me start this way. I was in Israel. I was living in Israel when those girls were abducted, and the first thing I did when I heard about the abduction was to actually call home to verify, because I just didn't want to base it on the news that I'd heard, was to call home to verify if it was true, and I found out it was true. Let me also say this to our first speaker, Professor Stella. Yeah, I think it's good for you to have said that teachers have a right to protect their students, but at the time those girls were abducted, we already had an emergency situation. We already knew that the Northeast was not safe. We need to get a historical perspective to the abduction of those girls. Now, if you recall to mind, you remember that a federal government college in Buniyadi, about 39 or 49 students had been killed, burnt. They were burnt like rams by the terrorists. And we practically all moved on, walked on as a nation, as if nothing happened. So what did that automatically do was to embolden the terrorists that, if everyone could move on in the nation without showing any form of concern, then it was easy for them to have gone to the girls' secondary school in Chibok to abduct those girls. So at the time those girls were abducted, there was nothing the teachers could have done because there was already a state of emergency in place. Now, what would teachers who were defenseless would have done against terrorists who were all armed? What would they have done? Yeah, I'm just posing that as a question to our first speaker, But the truth is that, the abduction of those girls, we lost a lot of what I call social capital and social empathy, because instead of us to be having a discourse on how to rescue those girls, we rather ended up having a discourse on the politics, politicization of the abduction of those girls. We failed to show human empathy. We failed to show social empathy to children of poor peasants, who, because they're voiceless, nameless, it didn't really bother us. We spent so much energy and time, talking about, was it done to discredit the government or not to discredit the government, and then we lost so much valuable time. Why did I start from talking about my experience in Israel? Now, living in Israel, I remember that a young Israeli soldier was abducted by Hamas. A young guy called Gilad Shalit. Guess what happened? Israelis took turns. They took turns every day sitting in front of the Prime Minister's residence and his office on a daily basis for 5 years, non-stop. And guess what eventually happened? After 5 years, Israel had to give up 1,000 Palestinian terrorists for just one soldier. Now, when I saw that happen in Israel, and I said to myself, one of the reasons why we've not made a transition from a country to a nation, because I see Nigeria as a country and not a nation. One of the reasons why we've not made that transition from a country to a nation is the lack of social and human empathy. And as long as we don't have that, we'll still be having the same thing repeat itself. We just saw what happened in Kaduna. Students have been abducted in Kaduna, but until today, the state government, the federal government hasn't said anything. And Nigerians have moved on. We've moved on. So we keep moving on. The moment we keep moving on, the terrorists get more and more emboldened. That's my submission for now.
Okay, thank you so much. Looks like we lost Sese, but he will come back, and we're still with the power outage from Professor Stella. But the president of CADA just signed in. For some reason, there was a struggle before he came in. Brother Dauda, the floor is yours if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity. I apologize for the challenges in joining this forum today. I'd like to especially welcome my brother Chidi and the sacrifices he has made. Chidi, welcome. Thank you. And
thank you.
My condolences again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Jake, and Ceci, thank you very much. Prof, thank you for your empathy. I'd like to thank our audience for their enthusiasm. Today is our second run. I guess it will be more exciting because we had whetted the appetites of most of our audience and our partners and friends. So I'm very happy to be here. And I'm also well prepared to take on the issues. I'm very happy for the introductions that have come from Professor Williams, my brother Chidi, my brother Yarama, and of course our big host, Jake, and Sese, our friend in the US. Thank you all very much. And I guess we're good to go. We can easily forget the challenges and my late coming to this forum. Is technology basically been here like 6:45 trying to hit it, but it didn't happen. So thank you all very much. I'm here. Let's go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
thank
Uncle
you.
Jake, can I respond to my brother Chidi?
Well, we are not seeing your face. That's a problem. But go ahead.
Yeah, because we don't have any light. The important thing is for you to hear my voice, Uncle Jake. Chidi, Mom, let me share with you as a person what I have been able to do. And Obi knows me as former national president of Soroptimist International. I am very passionate about our girls. I am not political, but as a mother, as an aunt, as a sister, I am passionate. And this is why I said that. Going back to when I was teaching in a girls' secondary school, in 1972, Nigeria went to Munich for the Olympics. I was opportune to go to the Commissioner of Education at that time to say Dupe Oshikoya must not fail, because I had learned from Lagos City College of one of our daughters who was an athlete. And when she didn't pass her WAEC, nobody remembered her again. And I didn't want that to happen to Dupe Oshikoya. Luckily for me, at that time, my Latin teacher from Queen's College was the chief education officer. And I went to her, Mrs. Odesonya, and I said, I want to see the commissioner. She said, Stella, why? I said, let me see the commissioner. Commissioner Ogusoya saw me, and I told him, I go from Apapa to Loco every day. I need something that will help me record the classes for Dupe. Dupe must not fail her WAEC. And he gave me only, at that time, 1971, 10 shillings. I went, bought a recorder and the cassette. I would take all the classes, take it to her at Western Avenue, where she was camping. And in the afternoon when I'm going home, I will stop by to give this to her. That is the example that I'm saying. Those teachers know that there was an emergency. The school should have been closed down so that those children will not be in that emergency and be caught. Even in Kaduna.
Prof, hold on, Prof. You just raised a very important issue. And we want to know from the community heads, was there any signal to the teachers in the school at the time? Is it possible that they should have raised the signal? Any of you, Yerima and Brother Dauda can take that. Brother Dauda, you're muted. Both of you are muted. Both of you are muted.
Okay, these things they have a mind of themselves, Jake. I was hitting that button like my life depended on it. You just want to mute.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that question. That question was interrogated very well in 2014 by the Presidential Fact-Finding Committee led by General Sabo. And indeed, the answer is very clear. The Q&A between the authorities and WAEC and the government of Borno State was very clear that they were going to provide security for that school for that April 2014 WAEC session. So those things were taken care of to the extent that if you wanted to write a thesis. But see, we've gone past that. We shouldn't recriminate over these things. So I want to appeal to the prof. We have discussed this in Chidi knows. We've gone back and forth. We've visited. We have had seminars. We have had the April 14th. We hold an annual event for this. We interrogated everything, and there is a report. If you want to access it through the libraries, you can access. All those were there theoretically, but the truth is that even governors have been known to be waylaid or ambushed in the Northeast. There's nothing that can guarantee safety. So, except if you want to say life should cease. And since 2014, this 2020 is the first time that exams were held in Chibok. Even though there are controversies again as to who would have authorized such a thing, recklessness, people are being accused and all of that. But if you juxtapose that with the sufferings of exam writing students in Chibok from 2014 till date, you'll be prepared to pay any price just to write that exam, short of paying with a human life. So we need to dimension these things very well. I know we are outpouring with sentiments, and I appreciate all of that. But all that comes to nothing when you realize that that happened. And even that day of the attack happened about 11 p.m. on the 14th, riding into the 15th of April 2014. As early as 4 p.m. on the 14th, security reports were all over that there was something untoward happening in the southern Borno part of Borno State. But nobody could do anything.
Okay.
I think I spoke to this on the first session, and I said it's a huge failure on our security apparatus.
Yes. Okay. So
thank you.
See, this is my philosophy. You don't talk about problem when you don't think through the solution. So let's talk about solution. What can we do? What are we saying can be done for all the people who are listening to us, for all the people who are tuned in? What is the solution? What's the way forward?
I think if I may come in here, Prof, I think one of the things we need to do is to you need to galvanize, leadership needs to galvanize followership. Now, if you don't have leadership galvanizing followership in a country or in a nation, you never find solutions to issues in that nation. And the only way we can actually do that is to really have competent people, manning strategic positions, I mean, from the presidency down to the lowest level of leadership, having competent people, and not just competent people, I mean, people with what we call intelligence quotient and empathy, you know, because one of the things we lack in Nigeria as a country is that we don't have leadership that is empathetic, you know, to the cause of the people. So we're talking about solutions. We need to look critically at the word empathy in leadership. Once you don't have that, we're going to keep having a repetitive situations in Nigeria. So my basis for solution to all of these problems will be, let's look at leadership from an empathetic platform.
Uncle Jake, the way it is,
hold on, Prof. Hold on. Sese, Prof, you can come in, but let's also give Yerema to respond to some of the issues that have been raised. Yerema, what has been your own experience?
Thank you very much. Well, like my president said. Yes, please. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We are struggling, but we can hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, but he's struggling. Okay. While we're waiting for that, Prof, you are holding your thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay. The thing is, we need to actually find out what is the best way forward. Oh, Yarama is back.
Yarama is back. Sorry, I had network problem.
Yeah,
Can I talk?
Go ahead.
Okay, I think like the president said, this community Chibok, at that time, actually in 2014, during that WAEC, I think the assumption was that Chibok was fairly a safe haven for Borno State in the sense that it's one community that has not been attacked in the past. But however, that was not a reason not to put security. There were all arrangements to bring in security. Unfortunately, what happened that night, no one can fathom, no one can explain. But the reality also is that if you look at Chibok, it's an area that has been almost neglected, disconnected from other communities in the sense that even when there's emergency, there's no road linking Chibok, no single tar road linking Chibok town to any major town, whether Maiduguri or even the Damboa that was near Aba or even Askira. So Chibok was like a hinterland. So at such a very difficult moment, even if there was an effort to, internally raise alarm to see how to rescue these girls, the difficulty of Chibok being disconnected without road or anything makes it much more difficult. So we really cannot blame the community, but I think, yes, there was enough time that rescue could have happened, at least to pursue, because when those girls were picked, information went out. So if information went out, if there was an immediate follow-up, the possibility of rescue those girls in transit at that time was much higher than what we are struggling to do today.
Fantastic. Sese, I'm sure you want to take the floor. Maybe you have a question before we bring in the audience. Prof can also respond, but Sese, come in.
Yeah, let's allow Prof to speak, and then we can take the conversation to a different direction. I think she has a thought to put out there. So, Prof, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sese. Yeah, like my brother Dauda said, one of the problems that we're still having in the Northeast is the fact that even the soldiers are killed on a regular basis. So in other words, that end of Nigeria is still burning up. So how can we get the government, the army, and all the various legislators to think seriously how to rescue that area from the people? Because it's the information, they get information before they attack. How does the information get to them? That is the question. How do these people get information?
Okay, Prof, let me come in. I mean, your husband, it's a general, and I'm sure he probably was in service at the time in question.
No, he
As an
wasn't.
activist, what was your husband?
When NDA celebrated 50 years, my husband was in Kaduna and he made an appeal to NDA one group for security because he's always talking about security. They did not believe him. They did not listen to him. Right now, he's been even reaching out to others to say it is time for them to come together and talk about security.
Absolutely.
He is passionate about that. My husband is Ishola Williams. And he never stopped worrying because for him, it is his soldiers that he's angry about. That how can his soldiers be killed? He does not even believe this is the kind of system that he was in. He resigned his commission when Abacha took over because he felt that Abacha was a numbskull and he was not going to serve under him. So he resigned on my 50th birthday, November 24, 1993. But he never stopped working.
Yeah. So I think this conversation is really interesting, and I think it's converging towards some key highlights. What do we do going forward? Is bordering along security, the importance and the need for security. And I want to tie it back to the phase one, the first session that we had 2 weeks ago. And Mr. Dauda highlighted, because we're talking about what's the way forward? How can we get these 112 girls back? What are the primary needs of Chibok today? What do we need? What does that community need? What are the key elements that will bring life one step towards receiving some succor, experiencing some love and grace, where government and other entities might have failed? And there's an interesting conversation that, Mr. President, you brought up. You said that, I think maybe 4 years ago, you had security as the number one item, as a need. But as of today, that list flipped. I don't know if I am recollecting correctly, that security is now at the bottom, and at the top of your list, I think it's access road, then things around boosting agrarian type activities, and so on and so forth. I think this conversation going on today ties back to that. So if we could begin to talk about how can we show love? How can we send grace towards Chibok, right, in that regard? And also any sense you can give to how and what can be done to drum up support towards the rescue of the other 112 girls. I think that would be great.
Okay, thank you very much, Sese. Thank you, Prof. Chidi, the Oga at the top, Jake. Thank you. Conversation is very exciting, very, very nice. And I like the emotions that are pouring out. Thank you, Sese. if you want me to recap, 6 years ago, security was #1 because the trauma and even the emotional and psychological bit of the trauma was that when next are they coming? Some people started to set camp on the Chibok Hills, couldn't even come back following that April 14th to 15th attack. So, but you see the human nature is a very resilient one. Days became weeks, weeks became years. So the reality check set in. What's that reality check? Hunger, disease, daily biological needs, like you know, from the Maslow hierarchy. So basically, if you're looking at Chibok today, the social infrastructure is what is topmost. With all these attacks, unrelenting attacks, people still don't have potable water. They trek long distances on bicycles, in wheelbarrows, on foot to find water. Like Yerama said, if, for instance, like Damboa, like Wuba in Askira, Borno, Wuba is a very interesting town in that corner of the country that sits on 2 states. It sits on Borno, it sits on Adamawa. So the third roads that would have facilitated a conventional army to have repelled the marauding terrorists of April 14 needed roads. Whereas the guerrilla fighters of Boko Haram don't need no roads. They drove in the bush. Your army would need roads to move their machines on the road. No road to Chibok. Chibok to Damboa on the north, 42 kilometers. Chibok to Askira Uba on the southeast, another 30, 35 kilometers. But the terrorists don't care for roads. They drove into the bush and drove back into the bush. So that sets them at an advantage over your conventional army. That's security. But social infrastructure, water, health, primary health facilities, education that in the first place set ablaze this whole thing are still yawning gaps in the social fabric of the Chibok people. So basically, that's why security took a backseat. And security, 6 years down the road, with a task force brigade in Chibok and a platoon of soldiers there, we now know it's not sufficient. It has not stopped the bandits, the terrorists from attacking villages and towns and even Chibok itself. So by and large, security had to take a backseat, whereas the ravaging effects of hunger, of lack of potable water, of lack of primary health facilities, and so on and so forth, have taken center stage. And again, you need to look at a wider dimension. There are other social issues like that are tied to insecurity. Because of insecurity, fertilizer that contains a lot of nitrogen and NPK fertilizers, particularly urea, has been banned as an item moving into the Northeast. What does that do? On the surface, it sounds harmless, but when you look at it in the agri value chain, it then tells you that the farming communities of Chibok are lacking a major input to their farming activities. And remember that Chibok is essentially agrarian. And why is it that the Nigerian army or the security apparatus banned urea? Urea is said to be an element in bomb making or explosive making. The chemists here would agree with me. So there was a blanket ban on urea fertilizer. That is something I fault. Because see, if we have the police, we have the SSS, we have the army at every checkpoint from Wuba to Chibok on the southeast and from Damboa to Chibok on the north, they can check and see what fertilizer is coming into Chibok. To say don't bring fertilizer into Chibok simply because urea is a component of bomb making, I think begs the issue. I could be faulted by security agencies, but I'm saying they need to be diligent. They need to be better than that. Blanket bans don't do anything. It has deprived Chibok of its agri potentials. And add the attacks of farmers in the bush, it is reducing Chibok to a hunger headquarter of the Northeast from being the food basket of the Northeast and Nigeria at large. I think I want to pause here and see what other dimensions can come to play. Thank you very much.
I like to follow Dauda on this, if I have your permission.
Yerema, please, can you come in?
Yes, please. Thank you. I am an agricultural expert. And like Dauda rightly said, Chibok is an agrarian land. But how do you push agriculture when you do not have support? Basically, like he said, the level of agricultural productivity depends on the level of inputs you have. Two primary inputs are very important. One is the fertilizer, but even before the fertilizer, good seeds. Let me be very honest with you. I have had reason to interact with international agencies that work in agriculture in Nigeria that has a lot of projects, persuading them to have some hand, go down Chibok area, come to Macedonia and help us. But everyone will tell you because of Boko Haram, they are not ready to go there. There are Nigerians who will be ready to take these technologies down. Chibok, which is an agrarian land, does not have improved seeds. The seeds they plant are still the seeds that our forefathers have been planting years back. No one is ready to take new varieties, even for trial, as a research station. There is not any research going on in Chibok in terms of adapting even the developed crop varieties in Nigeria to the soils of Chibok. So I think in whatever form we can do, if we can empower Chibok people to have the privilege to have improved seeds, to have trainings on improved agricultural production techniques, and get them new varieties, they will be able to help themselves if fertilizer also is added. Now, last Wednesday was Chibok market. I had a call from a family, a man with 7 kids and his wife. He literally was crying to me. And I said, what is the matter? He said he has 7 kids. Last year, Boko Haram couldn't allow him farm. As he's speaking now, he doesn't know how to go home because there's nothing to give them to eat. I had to squeeze out 25,000 naira from my mega salary and sent to him because he said a bag of Guinea corn in Chibok market was selling for 25,000. How many Chibok families are sleeping hungry? It baffles my mind. When I eat here, I am never satisfied because I know many of my kinsmen are living without food. January 27, I lost my father. I was in Chibok. In my small community called Mbulabam, just about 5 kilometers out of Chibok town. 5 p.m. in the evening, I saw children from 6 to 10 years climbing bicycle, running to another 5 kilometer away village to go and fetch water to drink. And I cried. I literally wept. And I asked, what is the problem? How do we get water here? They said they have 2 dead boreholes. Even those boreholes, they could not renovate. What happened? One borehole was given by the politicians. It never gave water. The second borehole was given by the missionaries. It gave water, but along the way, the pumping mechanism got destroyed. So no one could draw water out of that borehole again. I tried approaching the local government for just about 100,000 naira so I can add money to renovate one of those boreholes. I was told anything above 50,000 is not possible to get from the local government. Thank God, God helped me. Another fellow brother of mine, Chibok, came to my aid and we put money together. We were able to renovate that borehole at a cost of about 300,000. Today, I was happy because they called. In fact, they put a loudspeaker to thank me that they are able to get at least up to 1,500 jerrycans of water every day from the borehole, and it was helping the community. So Here is Chibok, a land that flows with milk and honey before, but now is in desolate condition, that we desperately need infrastructure. There's no road. Until that road is made, there's no major development that can make sense in Chibok. Because even when there's attack, there's no way to come with an aid of rescue. Because before you travel through the jungles of Chibok and reach Chibok town, the people would have been inherited. Yes, we also have schools that are functional. We need the schools to come back. Yes, please.
Yerema, thank you. Thank you. You spoke passionately and articulated the needs that is required. But one thing that both of you spoke eloquently about is agriculture. And on this panel, we have a professor of agriculture, and we also have Sese, who is both a data scientist and agriculturist. So can both of you give us one or two takes before we bring in our audience?
Thank you,
Sese,
thank you, Uncle Jake.
Yeah.
Dr. Yarama knows me very well. How many times have I been to ARCN pushing for what you are saying, Yarama? I spent my own money to come to Abuja. It's not that it is government money. I take care of my need. Coming to ARCN, you were a director there. How many times have I been into your office? So when you are talking about passionately about this, we had opportunity, which we never made use of. And you know that. And you know that. As much as you are so passionate, how many years have you known me pushing for agricultural development in that area? So for me, one of the things that I discovered, Uncle Jake, one of the things that I discovered, Uncle Jake, because I have been to that end of the Northeast, is that even when you plant, the Boko Haram will collect the products for their own use. Isn't that the side? Isn't that the truth? Even if your people plant, wouldn't Boko Haram come and harvest for their own use? Please answer that question.
But Prof, what is the seed? What in your wisdom and your academic experience, what is the solution? What can they do about the seed? What can they do about the new farming method that can help the region?
The current Minister of Agriculture is willing and ready to help. But the problem is that the security is lacking. The Boko Haram will take the harvest for their own use. When I was in Maiduguri and I met with soldiers, what they told me was that now, because nobody is farming, they are now collecting and charged. And that's what the Boko Haram are converting into money. We have to get the security in place. I agree with what they have said. We need the infrastructure. There is no doubt about that. We need the water. There is no doubt about that. But the thing is that if the security is not there, you are just going to plant and allow these Boko Haram to collect it. Isn't that the truth?
Okay, Prof, thank you.
Prof asked me to answer a question. Can I?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
I think, Prof, we know ourselves long. I have been in agriculture for over 30 years too. So I know that yes, agriculture in Nigeria is there. But the reality is that while everybody doesn't want to go to Chibok, there are still many ways we can assist the Chibok people in their agri life. I would beg a little to disagree that every harvest in Chibok is harvested by Boko Haram. That is not the situation. Farmers still have farms. Farmers still go to farms where they can, and they still bring in harvest. Yes, it's true that sometimes, even when you bring in the harvest in the house, they could come and raid a town and take some food. But that is no reason that we should not make the farmers have opportunity to be able to grow food for themselves. No one is going to be able to provide food for this community. The best we can do is to empower them to be able to produce their own food and then provide the security to avoid taking the food away. This is the little I want to comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yarama.
Real quick, we don't have time. I have just about 3 minutes to round up, and I'm gonna ask each of the remaining panel, Yarema, I'll take that to be your closing remarks. I'm gonna ask each of the panel to give me one minute closing thoughts. Unfortunately, we're not able to bring in our audience to ask questions. But then, Chidi, you've been quiet. Give me 60-second intervention. Thoughts.
Yeah, I think the major intervention for me will be us bringing the Chibok issue to the front burner again, nationally, and getting back to a place where voices are raised and in form of advocacy. That's it for me, Dix. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the president, Brother Dauda, your 1 minute intervention. Closing.
Thank you very much. Two things I want to say quickly. Number one is government should please strengthen its intelligence gathering and negotiation, like we were told, towards the return of the remaining 112 girls. Remember, that was our headline topic. Number two, security, riding on what the prof has said. Well, yes, and Yarama has also responded. I don't want to overflow, but you see, we would not stop to address food security simply because of security. Food security and community security would have to go hand in hand.
Okay, looks like we are losing
and information gathering and then improvement in infrastructure to take community security to a level that it will not threaten food security. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sese, you want to jump
in? Thank you. I think, again, very good conversation. Never enough time to talk about this topic. I've taken some very good notes, and I believe that circling back with Pastor Jakes and the leaders from Chibok can begin to help one galvanize different communities in the regard to what Chidi said. And I think we can take some of these conversations offline and begin to find ways to move things forward for the village of Chibok. I'm excited about what could be done. I see a lot of.
Thank you, Sese. Unfortunately, I like to keep this webinar to exactly 1 hour. We have less than 20 seconds to be on top of the hour, which is 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock, and we bring to an end the webinar today. I would like the president and all the panelists, if you can give me 2-3 minutes. There are a few things that I want to suggest, but we need to end the program now. If you stay back, I have 1 or 2 ideas that time will not allow me to talk. Next week is going to be a bumper edition. Next week we'll have the transmission, the manager, general manager transmission, MTN. We'll have Sam Oji, who is also here, works for Huawei, and we will have Akindayo from Microsoft, and all of us will look at the facts and fiction behind 5G technology. Is it good for you? Is it bad? What is it that you need to know? Don't miss next week's edition. But right now, we've come to the end of the program, and we want to thank our audience. Unfortunately, we had no time to engage you, but rest assured, we'll keep telling you what is going on. Thank you so much for being part of the program. This is where we draw the curtain.
It's exciting, it's educative, and engaging. Get master information on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, 7 o'clock every Sunday evening with your host, Jake Ebele, CEO and founder, the Albino Foundation. Wisdom Masterclass webinar, live on Zoom, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Topics that will stir you up, take you right to the next level. For more information, send email to jake@albinofoundation.org or call 0803 533 5444. That is 0803 533 5444. Get reality on a virtual platform. Join the virtual train. Don't be told. Get wisdom only on Wisdom Masterclass webinar, poised to take you to the next level.
All right. Okay, that's the end. Okay. Let's put some thoughts to this. While all this was going on, Chidi raised a very important point of advocacy. You know, a thought came to me. Mr. President, I hope you're still here. Brother Dauda, did he sign out?
Yeah, I think Chidi and Dauda signed out.
Okay, all right, okay.
I'm still here. Can I say
Prof,
something?
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, Prof.
As